Hello everyone, hello, I'm the Black Shadow, and it was about 12 hours ago now that we finally had our first details out for the somewhat mysterious Project Resistance, Capcom's latest project in the lead up to probably Resident Evil 8 / Resident Evil 3 Remake in the coming future. Now, the immediate reaction to this game has been not the most positive in the world, it must be stated, but I think this is a good opportunity now that the Capcom website itself has been fully updated, a good opportunity to sort of explore what we know about the game, what we can likely expect, and whether we actually do think this game is going to completely crash and burn, as a surprising amount of the internet seems to suggest it might. Not the best start, it must be stated. So, for those of you who don't know very much going on, Project Resistance, as I said, is Capcom's latest title. I'll get to that in a second. And it puts the Mastermind versus a group of survivors in a 4v1 asymmetric online survival horror experience. Now, when you think of 4v1 asymmetric, you think of games like, Dead by Daylight. Has done pretty well for itself in 3 years. Games like Friday the 13th, yeah, sure, it was fine. Games like Evolve, that sort of thing. So it's not necessarily the overall the strongest company in the world, and there certainly is a field of gameplay that I don't think Capcom are all that familiar with, it will be stated, but that's not stopped games being before. And so the idea is this is basically some big experiment. We have got the Mastermind who's been kidnapping young people for the purpose of data gathering, putting them through areas and trials and bits and pieces like that. The actual site here does a pretty good explanation of bits and pieces here. So the survivors basically must get through like 3 different stages, basically, by completing certain puzzles, defeating enemies as you go, sort of thing. And there is a time limit indeed. There is only so much time to escape overall, which number can be heavily affected by killing stuff, taking damage, people getting downed, etc. Whereas the Mastermind has the ability to place various types of enemies around. They can control certain types of enemies as well. As you can see here, Mr. Daniel Fabron, who is French, by the way. The survivors are put into 4 different classes, which is something I'd like to just award myself a gold star, because I predicted that over on Twitter, with Samuel, January, Valerie, and Tyrone all acting as different sort of classes, effectively. So Valerie, for example, is basically the team healer. Tyrone is the guy that can, do lots of damage, take lots of damage, that sort of thing. That whole kind of business. So the game is due to be released over on both PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. And as far as that's concerned, there is also a closed beta test, which I want to get out the way right now. I do know it's only for PS4 and Xbox One, but your humble video producer here has put his name forward to both of these in the hope that I might be able to get an actual sample of it. The beta is due to be at the beginning of October, as you can see here. And regardless to say, if I do actually manage to get onto this, holy damn, I'm going to put some time into this to, both, for my own purposes of kind of understanding more about this game, as well as, hopefully trying to shape it into something better. As I did mention, the immediate response to this over on Twitter and such was not great. A lot of people, sort of saying, I wanted Outbreak. And yes, while I do admittedly agree, I would have preferred something a bit more on that loo. I'm willing to give Capcom a bit of rope here. I'm not completely going to just bury this immediately, but I can understand why there is potentially a lot of hesitation in regards to the game. What I think I would also do here as well, using some handy-dandy editing techniques, I think I would also have a quick little look at the first gameplay trailer that has been released over for Project Resistance. There is now actual bits of gameplay from Tokyo Game Show doing the rounds over on the internet, and I would certainly suggest having a little look at that. It's interesting sort of to see it. Here's more ideas of like the classes there. The gameplay at the moment is a little on the basic side, it must be said, but then this is a game that is in beta and doesn't actually have a release date yet. So, I can't exactly knock the game for that. It's very early in the cycle. So we'll have a quick look here. It does give you an idea of basic bits and pieces about this game that you can easily surmise. So I guess say you got your 4 different character types, who can obviously be ranked up by looks of it to get various bits and pieces. Obviously, your 4 characters do work the same way. You've got these item boxes that are every now and again, so everyone can supply themselves up as they so desire. But you must use, I believe, it's called umbrella credits at the moment, which you basically get for killing enemies as you go. And various bits and pieces. One thing you'll notice very quickly from watching this gameplay footage, and hopefully you might spot, is that it might look quite familiar. And the reason for that is that the gameplay engine is pretty clearly the same one that was used for Resident Evil Remake 2. Now, this is probably actually a very good thing, because one of when I did and obviously covered Resident Evil 2 Remake back in January and February, one of the really strong points I think about Remake 2 is its gameplay engine. I think the controls are really tight. It played super well. There were some questions over how the game addressed its story and how it changed from Resident Evil 2. There were some questions over bits and pieces as well, something about the music and that sort of thing. But one thing I think that was universally accepted was that the game engine and handling was really, really strong. And so I think if they are going to pursue this using the same engine for Resistance, which is exactly what I expected them to do, I think that can only be a good thing for sure. I think that's a fantastic idea. It's shown to work. It proved really popular and is a very good base to run a game like this, I suspect. Which is, funnily enough, when something that I suggested they do if they were going to go down the Outbreak route, funnily enough. But this is close enough. So, to get out of the various sections, you also need to complete, like, puzzles and such as well, as you can see here. So, they got, like, 3 sets of keys to unlock various cabinets. There are different methods of escaping different floors, you can see here. You don't get much of an idea of the Mastermind here. You will do a bit later on, but he can set, also alongside with using enemies and such, also traps here as well, which you'll see a little bit more as well. So you got Tyrone can like reduce damage taken. Valerie can heal various survivors in areas. Samuel can charge up melee attacks to punch zombies to dead. And January here is the class that is effectively designed to take on the Mastermind more so, in actually being able to disable security cameras, bits and pieces, basically interfering with the Mastermind's plan. The Mastermind operates via the use of security cameras dotted around and uses that to kind of set things as and where he wants. So disabling things like that is how you would sort of combat him as more so. So notice again as well, so as you clear areas, you gain more time for completing the challenges. Again, time is both gained and lost depending on like getting caught in traps, taking hits, killing enemies, etc., etc. Meanwhile, the Mastermind, this is where we get to here. Danny boy here. So you get an idea of how this sort of side more works. So yes, Impede the Survivors keeps using these things here, these cards. So there are various different pieces. I assume they have like different different costs, different. I don't know too much about how this side of thing works. There isn't very much gameplay dotted around at the moment regarding how the Mastermind exactly works. We shall certainly learn more, but this is generally the idea. You've got these various cards you've got to play, and then so it's like IVs, tyrants, lickers, general zombies. Obviously, some things will cost a lot more than others. So you can see there's like a charge timer there, and obviously an idea of how many cameras are in operation, switching around, that sort of thing. The enemies you generally don't get much actual control over, outside of some zombies and the tyrant when that comes in at the end of the game. There's explosives there. You can lock doors, stuff like that. Basically, be a real pain in the ass. You can actually attack as well, bits and pieces. And so you can control zombies directly, which is a thing that you can do. It's a thing that you can do. You also see as well how the one thing I should also point out as well is that the health bar here as well. Currently, it's down like this. You'll notice as well as you're going through with all the combat, at least at the moment, there's quite like a numbers system, like physically in your face, which is obviously how games work down the back of it. But you notice like shooting here and damage being dealt. It's all done very numbers-wise. So it gives you an idea for how things kind of work, which is worth noting. And then at the back end of the game, if things obviously haven't won yet, you can indeed play as Mr. X and do all sorts of crazy shit, which I'm sure is very, very interesting and potentially quite an enjoyable concept for some people to do. Whether he's actually killable or not, I don't 100% know yet, but I assume most likely. So that is pretty much everything I can sort of say for that. Again, here's a reminder again of the closed beta test. I will be endeavoring to try again on that. So my thoughts regarding this is that, all right, this isn't necessarily what I think a lot of people were wanting or expecting, but that doesn't mean I don't think this can be a bad game. I think on the contrary, I reckon this actually could be a reasonably entertaining game if done right. Like I've said, this game is a long way from release. There is no release date currently confirmed as of yet, so this game has got a long way to go to develop itself, to devise a much more intricate system than it obviously currently has. Again, it's basically the Resident Evil 2 remake engine with 4 players against someone that can control some of the infected and do bits and pieces. Again, it's at its core, it's very basic at the moment. It's more about testing the actual game principles, making sure that the system itself can be made to work before really spending a huge amount of time, investing into it. So there's a long way to go for Resistance. My concern for Resistance is going to be that I reckon on release it will be fine. When this game first comes out, it'll be kind of an interesting little concept, and I think it'll be actually kind of entertaining. My problem is, how does this game survive, a week down the line, 2 weeks down the line, a month down the line, 6 months down the line? This is a trend that has occurred with a lot of these types of games, as I've mentioned earlier. Something like Dead by Daylight, for example, managed to buck the trend. It's been going strong for a little over 3 years now, and is still seeing development, still seeing updates, DLC, etc., etc. This is not exactly Dead by Daylight, because in that game, it's all about 4 survivors trying to delay the inevitable, against a killer who ultimately cannot be stopped. If the game goes long enough, he will win. And it's about, stalling the killer, delaying, subterfuge. Whereas in this is more of an actual confrontational sort of thing. You actually have, weapons. You're able to physically defend yourself against the Mastermind and his various ploys and traps. As someone described it to me actually quite well on the Discord server, this is a game of cooperation and survival against the use of very limited but very powerful resources. And so I reckon it puts a lot of emphasis on whoever plays as the Mastermind to make sure that when they strike pretty damn well. So we shall see plenty more of Project Resistance certainly down the line. I'm very curious to hear all of your guys' thoughts regarding what you've seen so far, and I would certainly recommend, if you are interested, check down some of the footage that's on YouTube. It is starting to do the rounds. It's mainly survivors at the moment. I'm yet to see one really of any Mastermind stuff. It's probably out and around there. I just haven't seen it yet. But that's going to be all for this video. So very much looking forward to watching and listening. Hope you're interested and enjoyed. For those of you on the channel as well, just to let you know, we are currently in the process of uploading the Resident Evil randomized stream, which is probably going to take another couple of days to get it all up live, because there was ultimately a lot of footage to get through. It was a pretty long stream. We will be, of course, finishing that off early on Saturday over on Twitch. So there's a link of that in the description. And then later that day, we will then be embarking on a randomizer for the Source Next version of Resident Evil 2, effectively the one from 1998. So very much for listening and watching, and I'm sure we will find out plenty more about Project Resistance and Crazy Danny in the very near future. I'll see you soon.